Welcome to the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast with your host, hailing from Kaukauna, Wisconsin, riding a CST tires, SSI decals, Valvoline backed Yamaha YFC 450R, four-time ATV Motocross National Champion, number 25, Cody Jansen.
What's up, everybody?
We're back!
Welcome to the latest edition of the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, episode 144 of the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, presented by our title sponsor, CST Tires, in stock and available for purchase today at shop.csttires.com. I'm your host, Cody Jansen, saying hello to our more than 263,000 monthly Digging Deep listeners in 109 countries in which you are listening, and this is our 2024 Loretta Lynn's race review and season wrap-up show. Of course, we were eager to see if Joel Hetrick could pull off the unthinkable, but there was so much more that unfolded at the ATV Motocross National Championship season finale at Loretta Lynn's. We break it all down on this episode of the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast with special guests Mitch Reynolds and Daniel Hillian of the Remain in the Race podcast. These guys may focus more on the TT world, but we might have saved our very best for last because this episode was an absolute blast. But before we drop the gate on this one, let's quickly shout out all of our incredible partners. CST Tires, go to shop.csttires.com today. Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew. Thanks to SSI Decals, Valvoline, DID Racing Chain, Nemira Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Lauderdale Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, the financial advice of the Haymauer Financial Group, DP Brakes, Factory 43, Binky's Forever ATC Museum, Impact Solutions, Ultimate Poly Products, UPP Racing, our choice when it comes to case savers, chain sliders, intake manifolds, and more. Use discount code DIGGINGDEEP15 at uppracing.com, the D6 Ultimate Quad Series, and Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Whether it's the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, the GOAT of electric razor trimmers, my personal favorite, the Beard Hedger Pro Kit from Manscaped, or the best nose hair trimmer ever created, the Weed Whacker 2.0, get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. So rad that Manscaped is continuing to invest in ATV racing as a longtime partner of Digging Deep. Help us keep them in the fold and involved in ATV racing by using our Digging Deep 20 code so they know you enjoy digging deep in what we're all about. Support all the great companies that support us, and for any products that fall through the cracks, click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner on our website to help us out. I don't know about you guys, Loretta's left my YFZ 450R needing a little TLC. So I went on Rocky Mountain. I got some of the OEM bolts that I needed. I got a couple new oil filters and just some odds and ends that I know I'll need in the off season here. No matter what off-road gear parts you need, Rocky Mountain ATVMC has you covered. But before you buy, simply click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner on our website. Using our specific link, we get a percentage of what you buy on the back end, enabling you to help us out while purchasing the parts you need anyway. And did you know you can buy OEM parts from Rocky Mountain ATVMC as well? Yep, shipped conveniently right to your door. So click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner at diggingdeepatvmx.com to help us out while satisfying all your gear and parts needs. And guys, spots are filling up fast with just a few days left for your chance to win an unforgettable trip to the Quad Cross of Nations. You'll be cheering on Team USA and the Czech Republic with round-trip airfare, a rental car, hotel accommodations, event tickets, and exclusive VIP access to Team USA's hospitality zone, all included. This is your chance to support the red, white, and blue in style. What are you waiting for? Head over to our website, diggingdeepatvmx.com. Click the Quad Cross of Nations European Trip VIP Experience link. This is your way to potentially go to the Quad Cross of Nations and support the red, white, and blue. Be part of the Team USA efforts, the whole 9 yards, trip of a lifetime. You'll never forget it, but there's only like 2 or 3 days left to get in on this thing. So do it now. Do it while you're listening to this episode. Lastly, a huge shout out to our mystery donor from last week, Jeremy Graves. Jeremy, I can't thank you enough for the support. I can't thank you enough for buying a t-shirt at the Legends race at Briarcliff. Again, shout out to Jeremy Graves for supporting us here at the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. If you're interested in donating and hearing your name on the show, you can find the Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee donation links on our website. Major thanks to all who have donated, of course. Now, if you can't donate, but you still want to help us out, leaving us a rating or review on iTunes and Spotify is definitely the next best thing. Now, it's showtime. The 30-second board is up, it's sideways, and the gate is down. Time to dig deep.
Let's go!
All right, guys, we are back for our final race review episode of the 2024 ATV Motocross National Championship season. We'll be back for the Quad Cross of Nations, of course, but as far as regular season racing goes, this is it. Now, there was a ton going on at Briarcliff for the Legends race. I don't need to explain that to anybody at this point, but when the dust settled, there was still plenty to watch shake out at the Loretta Lynn season finale. And joining me to help break down all the action from Loretta's is the Remain in the Race podcast crew of Mitch Reynolds and Daniel Hillian. Guys, welcome back to Mitch, and Daniel, welcome to the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast.
Man, I'm excited to be back, Cody. I'm glad you had us join. It was a great time showing up at Loretta's and just getting to see all the motocross action. You know, I love jumping. I love the motocross world, but you know, EDT's kind of been our thing lately with the podcast and everything. So we've been just living the EDT life and then showing up at motocross when we could. So catching back up at Loretta's, it's a good time, and glad we could join you tonight, Cody.
Yeah, on the other side of that coin, this was my first motocross national ever. We're EDT, we're TT guys. That's kind of where we talk about. Mitch and I go back and forth. I got a little background in cross country. Mitch obviously has some background in motocross. I think now this is a motocross podcast, so we're going to be pro motocross for this episode, Cody. But yeah, it was great to be there, and missed Briarcliff, but still, oh, you nailed it, man. So much to unpack with the Pro Sport Championship, Joel and his race, and to see Lindquist and Wolf, so many storylines, even though it was the last race. So I'm excited to get into this and excited to be here with you, man.
Yeah, I'm stoked to give people a little background. You guys reached out to me. Mitch reached out to me and asked if there was any interest in having you guys do the review show with me. And I just got done telling you guys before we hit record that when you have a guest or guests that are excited for this kind of thing, in my role and the listeners too, that's music to our ears. So I'm so stoked about this. It'll be fun because we got a little bit of everything going on here. I mean, obviously, Mitch, you're still very much in the scene to this day, a former pro in your own right and all those things. Kind of, a newbie to the ATV motocross thing is Daniel, and then me somewhere in between. So it should be super fun. But Mitch, it's been a minute. I don't think I would have seen you since last year at Loretta's. I remember talking to you last year at Loretta's a little bit, and now you get back to Loretta's this year. You were there and had some stuff going on there. So talk about what things have been going on over the course of the last year. I know you got this podcast going on since then, Remain in the Race, which has obviously been gaining steam and gaining momentum. So just tell me what's up and I guess how the podcast came about and how that's all become a thing.
Absolutely. So I'll step back just a little bit, Cody. So you and I were racing each other pretty heavily there a few years back. And, at the same time, I was trying to do a little moto church. So have time of devotion and prayer there at the races. Then broke my ankle there at Ionia Pass. So had to have surgery. So that kind of took me out of the game for a little while, right? I couldn't walk for 5 or 6 weeks there. And it was really about a year journey back to walking, right? And it's just like, and I just don't know that racing is in the cards for me anymore. Being down and having a family to support, that was just tough. It's kind of a little bit of a different life change, if you will. But then in steps Daniel, good friend of mine from TT Racing. And I'm like, man, how can we continue the Moto Church thing? How can we still be connected to ATV racing? Because, there was that hiatus I had. I went into the pro class and really just didn't make it in the pro class and was out of ATV racing for 10 years, but got to go back and TT race against you, had a great time. But I'm like, I want to stay involved with that community. I love it so much. It brought so much to me for so many years. And so Daniel's like, and actually one other buddy, they said, hey, what about a podcast? And I'm like, well, hey, I'm a fan of Digging Deep. I'd been on your show. I was a consumer of your podcast, and I'm like, I don't know anything what that looks like. You guys are going to figure out the tech, but that would be awesome. And so, we're just trying to figure out our lane. Like, where do we fall? We want to promote this sport, give some people some good content. So where do we fall in this whole thing? So we just started highlighting a lot of different things. And we're like, you know what? Our specialty is EDT racing. So that was our lane. We're like, we're going to talk EDT racing and Jesus. Obviously, we've had motocross guests on at times, and we talk motocross for the most part, but I feel like you do a great job handling that. So I'm like, we can give exposure to the EDT world because it's all one big community. But anyway, run into you again at Loretta's. I've been to a couple motocrosses since I broke my ankle, but it's just racing, I'm like, I can ride, but I don't know how to go anything other than 110%. So, I put that helmet on. And so I'm like, the smartest thing for me, and you'd know that. I mean, when you and I race, like, hey, I'm a little on the wild side, right?
A little bit. Yeah.
I hang it out there. A little bit just because I don't, I want to leave it all out there. But anyway, so just kind of pull back from that. But, every year it's a point for me to go and help Miss Debbie at the 88 Live to Ride auction, and appreciate you, Cody, for the last couple of years, or maybe even longer, putting together a package for that, because that means so much to our sport. But then by way of that, Moto Church has just exploded with some guys that I just put a post out there and reached out to me, and we talked, and then got to do baptisms at Loretta. So that was really what drew me back in. But always my intent is to at least try to make a couple races a year. So in the motocross world, just to stay connected.
Absolutely. And in your name still to this day brings, a lot of clout, and, you belong at the ATV motocross races still in some way, shape or form. So that's really cool. Daniel, you, on the other hand, like you said, you got a little bit of a different background. First ATV Motocross National. Did it live up to the hype? Like, what was your expectations going in? Fill me in on that heading into Loretta's there.
Yeah, for sure. I actually take this back. I lied to you, Cody, and I'm so sorry. This is the second national. We went to Bud's Creek last year where they had the
crossover. Yeah.
Crossover, and had the TT race next door and the motocross race right there close. Yep. This was my first trip to Loretta's. I kind of misspoke there, but so I kind of had a little bit knew what was going in. Of course, ATV racing is such a small community. If you're following one form of racing, it's going to overlap. Like, there's only so many sponsors. There's only shock builders. There's only so many, tire people, things like that. So I've kept a pretty good pulse on it. But Mitch and I's background, we've been friends for 25, 30 years. Grew up, Mitch's family had the racetrack, TT track right there on their property. So grew up doing that, racing together. Mitch and I were kind of never really in the same class. I was more of a blaster guy. He was more of a 90 mod guy. So we kind of have our own special places there. And then when we got onto the big bikes, the track at Twin Creeks, our home track, closed down. Mitch's parents had some other things going on, and Mitch was kind of diving off more into the motocross world. And I'm like, I don't jump, man. Like, I'm scared. I'm terrified. All you motocrossers are crazy. And so that's where we had a local cross country series right here in the state of Arkansas. So we could ride not year round, but do a 10, 12 round series and never leave the state. And it's like, hey man, we could save so much money, because this sport's expensive. And so that's kind of, and Mitch and I have stayed in touch over the years, but that's what he gets hurt. He comes, he kind of reaches out and it's like, hey, how can we stay involved? And secretly, it's not really a secret. I've told this to his face, and I'm going to tell all of your listeners now, I'm using this podcast to get into Supercross. Like, I want to be the pit reporter for Supercross. So I'm using Mitch, I'm using you. I'm trying to get there, so.
Don't you forget the ATV community, Super D.
You're right. Oh, no.
The ATV community. Yeah, that's where our heart's out, baby.
Yeah.
Come on now.
I've reached out to Weege. We're not on a first name basis, but I do know the voice of pro motocross, Jason Wygant there. But it was so cool to go and to be up close. And there's nothing like being at the races. And that, like, there, even in our world, there's times where you can't go to every race. And so you watch online, you have people there, you're calling, but to see the guys come through the super rough sand section and Wesley Wolf get wild and just drown like 80 people in sand. I mean, it's like, well, you don't get that if you're watching online. And so, man, it lived up to all the hype and the history that was made. Watching, Joel go undefeated, man, that's next level impressive, and it was fun, man. And a big part of the reason that got me there was obviously Miss Debbie and Jody. Loved them to death, and to go and to be part of the auction and just to see all that go down was so much fun and so rewarding. And so it was like, well, we're already here. Let's just stay tomorrow and watch some pro motocross. So it was great, man.
I love it. You're speaking my language. 2-wheel guy, as much as I'm a 4-wheel guy, almost. To give you a little background, I know I said this when I've had Mitch on the show before, but Mitch is a little bit older than me, or at least he was racing like nationals like full time when I was not yet racing nationals full time.
Sure. Yep.
And I grew up, started on flat track and TT. That's where I started. That was my first love, all those things. And that's why Mitch was like my favorite, and when
you can do both.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why, on the motocross side, I cheered for him just as much too, because he was the TT guy, so he had like a connection to me. And back then I remember him wearing Thor gear, and still to this day, I'm a Thor guy. And
hey, do you remember the pinstripes, white with black pinstripes?
Yes, I sure do. I remember plain as day. And I remember, and I don't know what year this would have been, maybe like 2008 or something. It was my first year on a 450. And I remember being in like a Pro-Am LCQ with Mitch or something. And it felt like I was on there with like John Natale or something,
So my head's exploding just a little bit, Cody, right now. So
you can turn it down at any minute.
I mean, y'all can bring it down just a little bit.
Oh, man.
Pinstripe gear with the pinstripe Thor gear was next level. I loved it, man.
And you had a blue Thor helmet, I think, too.
Dude, I had a blue helmet. Yes. Now I think I could have done a little bit different scheme with the helmet. It was, so how that all came to be I'll keep a long story short, but basically the Honda, place that was helping me out, that was sponsoring me, he was really good buddies with the person high up on Thor. He's like, hey, you're getting on Thor gear. I said, great. I said that pinstripe stuff's sweet. And so then they just sent me the combo of all the stuff. So that would have been 2006.
6-7 is what I was thinking.
Yeah. Okay. Or maybe 8. Nope, 2008.
I think I would have said 8.
It was 2008. You're right. 2008. It was the Thor gear.
Because 7, you were on the Suzuki.
7, I was Suzuki. So
yep. You were, dude. Cody's a bigger fan than the guy across the table from me. That's awesome. Yeah, 2008.
So. Guy does research. He knows his stuff.
Man, that's not even research. That's just that's burned into my brain from those years when you're obsessed with it or whatever. But it's crazy. It's crazy how long, you think about it. It doesn't feel like it was that long ago, and you think about it, and it's what is that going to be? It's 16 years ago, something like that.
Yes.
So that's absolutely insane. So I want to kind of bring it back to this past weekend here at Loretta's, the Moto Church thing. Mitch, I knew that you were obviously, that was something that, was kind of your baby, but I knew that you weren't at obviously all the races this year while this thing is going on. And like you said, it's gaining momentum and it's becoming this bigger thing. And then, it kind of ended on a really high note, it seemed like, at Loretta's. So
absolutely
touch on that a little bit, how you said, that some guys reached out and they wanted to be kind of advocates at the racetrack and all that stuff. Explain to me how that happens. You're not there to do it hands-on, but you have some guys doing it for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, faith is a big thing to me, and it's all really a God thing, really. So we're continuing that in the TT world when we go as well. But actually in the off season, I was meeting with a pastor friend. He said, hey, I think, God's calling you to do more in the racing world. I was like, I don't know how that looks or what that is. Let's pray about it. And actually had a few different people, really people that aren't even connected to each other, some EDT people, some motocross people, say, hey, what races are you going to be at? We want to have church. I'm like, okay, here's what I'm planning on. I'm planning on 2 each series. I'm going to try to be in Texas, and I'm going to be at Loretta's. That'll be my 2 motocross. And they're like, man, could we have Moto Church at every race? And I'm like, that is a great idea, but I'm only one person. Mm-hmm. And a novel idea, right? A person said, well, you've got a connection of people, don't you? So anyway, I just kind of put a post out there, and a few guys reach out to me. And so Eric being one of them, Dwayne and Jason. And these guys really, they didn't know each other, but they knew they loved Jesus and they loved moto. And so they're like, what are you talking about, man? And so I had some pretty long conversations with them. And I'm like, what do you think about this idea, this concept of how to go about this track walk and prayer, or a track talk and prayer, however you want to put it. And Brandon Ho kind of took that by the horns, and Joel helped with that as well on Friday night. And then they're like, we'll have Moto Church, and we'll just gather and have a time of prayer. And they got a canopy, bracelets and everything. And man, these guys have just ran with it. And I stay in contact with them and just kind of help them in the background. So I'm the background man, if you will. But these guys have just really taken a passion for it. And I think it was after one of the first few races, they're like, hey, we've had a lady come and want to be baptized. That was Chelsea Jackson. And they're like, how does that work? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I've seen people baptized. I've seen pastors baptized. None of us are pastors. We're just simply followers of Jesus trying to share his word. Right. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, just talked to some friends. They're like, yeah, man, like Philip and the eunuch, like just go down in the water and baptize people. I'm like, Loretta's. So that's why it was like, hey guys, Loretta's would be the perfect opportunity. And so they went ahead and they baptized Chelsea at a race earlier in the year.
I saw that. Yeah.
And so that was massive. That was massive for Moto Church. But now for it to be present at every race and available there on Friday night for people, to be instructed, encouraged, and prayed for is a really awesome thing. But ended up doing 24 baptisms there at Loretta's. And that wasn't, the list was somewhere 10 to 15 when I got there. And man, it was just really an incredible thing. There's probably 100 people lining the banks, and just a surreal experience just to see people, want to take step and make that commitment. So again, God kind of takes four guys that are unconnected to one another. And funny fact, Cody, these guys didn't know me from Sam. They're like, oh, this is some TT racing guy. So Eric and I had a good conversation. He went by Jody's tent at one point in the year, and he said some people at Moto Church were talking like Mitch Reynolds' name is on a tent at JB Racing's rig. He's like, oh, that's some other guy. That's not this guy. And so he calls me the next week, and he's like, okay, so give me your backstory. And so I told him, he's like, oh man, he's like, I
had no idea.
I was like, dude, it doesn't matter who I am. I'm nobody. I'm just a guy that connects people. Like, who cares what my, what my resume was or whatever. I'm like, yeah, I love ATV racing and I love Jesus, and that's what it's all about. So.
Well, it seems like, and I didn't even know that the numbers were as big there as they actually were. That's incredible, man. But I also had wondered, like, what goes into that? Like, I know that, like, you don't take a class to baptize people, but it's just something, you're just able to to do it. Like, I didn't know the ins and outs of that.
It's like a reverse trust fall, man. You just catch them and hope for the best.
Well, I mean, I've seen plenty of baptisms, right? Like, I went to Catholic school, but
yeah.
Well, that's what I was like. Really, Dwayne and I talked. We watched some videos, and it's like I've seen enough of this done. I know you just baptized them in the name of the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, and we just dunked them under. Which
that's awesome.
So Super D is actually a youth pastor as well, so he's baptized officially before, and so I think he was trying to give me some pointers along the way. And I don't know that I made it an experience. I guess I can put it that way.
It was hilarious. Like, they did a great job, and it was really something to be part of. And then just to see other people, it's kind of like, I don't know if I want to do this, and then they see like their friend, get baptized, and just kind of feel that pull on their heart. Like, hey man, this is something I need to do. And so as I was watching, it was cool to be a part of, but I was trying to motion like, hey, maybe try to do it this way or this way. And they're just splashing them left and right, man. It was really, really a cool thing. And had a good crowd that gathered up there to watch.
I saw some pictures.
Yeah, it was really neat, man. It was cool to be a part of.
For Mitch to say that there was, 10 or 15 people on the original list, and to get that number up into the 20s, I was sitting here thinking like it gains momentum. People are like, hey, I want to be a part of this. Again, that's a pretty darn special thing. So yeah, perfect weather, right? For whether you're getting baptized or whether you're taking to the racetrack, it was perfect weather. I know that there's like some rumors going around, like, maybe Loretta's isn't gonna happen anymore for the ATVs, or maybe next year, whatever that rumor is. I don't know if that's going to be fully true or not. Like I said, I've heard some stuff, but if it was the last ATV National at Loretta's there for the time being or whatever, we sure were blessed with some amazing weather, because when do you go to Loretta's and not have it rain for 4 or 5 days, have the temperatures that we had that were very much not warm, like it was about as mild to Loretta's as I've ever been to.
Yeah.
And then to not have any other, like we had no weather at all. It was amazing.
That is crazy.
Mid to high 80s, a light breeze. I mean, perfect. And it's like, dude, this is the beginning of August.
And
what is happening?
Usually you're training with like a sauna suit on and sweatshirts in Texas before you go to Loretta's, because I mean, people struggle at Loretta's. It's usually hot and humid and just a struggle, but absolutely phenomenal weather.
Well, and they said for the bikes, it was about as warm as they remembered it being in the last 25 or 30 years. Yeah. And then for us to have it so mild, and I figured when the bikes didn't deal with much rain, like the conversation in my family was like, oh, the ATVs are fixing to get it. And none of us got it. It was that's like unheard of.
Maybe that's the double-edged sword, is all the heat, like Loretta's got the heat out of its system for the dirt bikes, and then it was good for us. And what's crazy is Loretta's is in a hole. Like they're like the rolling hills of Tennessee are all around it. So to keep that cool breeze kind of flowing the whole time, it was awesome. It was perfect weather for racing. That's for sure. I mean, it was awesome. Awesome. And like you said, if it is the last one, couldn't have been a better one. Maybe we'll go back. Don't know. Don't have a dog in the fight, but I'm just saying it was a great one to watch all the storylines happen. That's for sure.
And I don't want to get into that whole, what's happening with the ATV Nationals there or whatever, because I was promised last year that we were good for the next 10 years. That's what I was told by Rita. Rita said the ATVs will be there for the next 10 years. And now the rumor is that they're going to have the Pro Bike National again, which doesn't make any sense to me. And that's what's going to, kind of maybe derail things for the ATVs again. But I don't want to get ahead of my skis either, because this very well could be a 1-year thing. It really could. Nobody was happy having the Bike National there during the COVID year. So I don't want people to think that we're never going back or anything like that.
Hey, you got to stay tuned. Wait and see. It's dangling the carrot in front of the donkey, man. You just have to wait and see.
Yeah, there you go. So guys, we knew the topic coming into the weekend. The story that everybody was following was, of course, the potential of Joel Hetrick completing this perfect season. Coming into the weekend, we knew that was going to be the case. I think I had talked to Joel enough times throughout the season here. This thing was weighing on him. Even after the championship was clinched, even after the big prize was already taken to the bank for him, still there was a lot of pressure there. And so Bryce goes out in the first time qualifier. He's quickest in the first session. Joel made it happen in the second session. He goes to the top of the board. But when you got so much pressure going on, it just seems like you're like extra tuned in, extra worried about things and stuff like that. And insert the Phoenix team and Joel starting to hear some noises in that engine in that second qualifier. So that's when the team decided that there was a little too much noise going on. They were going to change the engine of the number one there, and they decided to switch it. Yeah, I think that just adds to a day for Joel that was extremely stressful. And it's one of those things where like they might have been hearing phantom noises, but the last thing you wanted to have happen was have an engine problem at this very final weekend when the perfect season was, right in front of them.
Incredible what had to be really going through their mind at that point. I've never set any sort of records, let alone a world record that will probably never be beat again. So the pressure of that, you understand, you're like, man, this guy is another level. And really talking to Rastrelli. So I saw Rastrelli before Briarcliff up in Ohio, and he was talking about Joel. He said, man, and you can tell it. I mean, everyone knows it. It's like the guy is he's on a different planet. Like he has figured this thing out. He is so fast. He's so smooth. But I guess when it's within your grasp, you've done all these things and you're like, it is possible. I am capable of doing this. I have all the tools needed, but you have to have luck on your side, because we know in ATV motocross, we have seen the championship come down to Loretta's and bad luck strike. We've seen it before. And so, that probably had to be in the back of Joel's mind a little bit of like, oh, please not the Loretta's curse that we've seen before. So that had to be mounting pressure for him.
Well, and you think about that too, hearing a noise, whether it was there or not, that makes you nervous. And then, qualifying is super tight. So it's like, well, I'm not just blowing them away with speed. Brandon Hogue and Bryce Ford are no slouches, Wesley Wolf, Lindquist, all these guys, they're great riders. You can't sleep on any of those guys. And then in Moto 1, Brandon Hogue rips a start. I mean, it's like, did everyone else forget to go? I mean, it was incredible. And so then, Joel's having to work his way through. And I'm sure he's like, and Joel's been around long enough. He's smart and he's got the right people in his corner. Like, just be patient. And, Hogue and Ford are like, no, how cool would it be? Wow. Like, it's kind of like, well, you want your guy to go under feet, like super cool, but you also want to be the guy that, I was the one that stopped him,
Of course.
They're going at it and then kind of get into each other. And then he just, right around he goes. And
we'll get right back to the show. But now a word from our sponsors. And thank you for listening to these ads. Without these great companies, none of this would be possible. Show your support for the people who support us. The official tire choice of Digging Deep, CST tires are the choice of ATV racing's elite on the track, in the woods, and every other terrain. CST tires swept the ATV racing world in 2022 as Joel Hetrick, Bryson Neal, and Bo Barron rode their Pulse MXR and Pulse HT tires to an ATV Pro Motocross title, GNCC XC1 Pro title, and 10th ATV Pro Works Racing title, respectively. Led by champion Joel Hetrick and podium contenders Bryce Ford, Jeffrey Rastrelli, and Nick Janusa, CST's Pulse MXR tire is the most trusted tire in ATV motocross today. Available in soft and standard compounds, the Pulse MXR offers the highest level of traction, most predictable cornering, and superior wear characteristics when compared to the competition. And did I mention they have a contingency program as well? Visit shop.csttires.com to join the CST takeover today, or prepare to be beat by someone who did. The best of the best choose CST. Do you? You know we're Team Blue Crew here at the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, as the Yamaha YFZ450R is the official ATV of Digging Deep. In a move started by 8-time ATVMX Pro Class National Champion Chad Wienen, who with his next championship will become the winningest champion in ATV motocross history, we are living in ATV racing's YFZ450R era. Alongside Wienen, 7-time GNCC XC1 Pro ATV National Champion Walker Fowler welcomed a pair of new champions to the Yamaha Champions Club, as the podium-proven Yamaha YFZ450R proved to be the winning choice for Joel Hetrick and Bryson Neal. This unprecedented success for the YFZ450R, its unrivaled quality and performance, and the clear fact that Yamaha is the leading OEM supporter of ATV racing has resulted in a complete Yamaha takeover within the sport quad market. Evident by the continuation of Yamaha's Blue Crew Racer Support Program, Yamaha riders will once again cash in on payout and prize opportunities in 2023, including a chance to win a brand new YFZ450R. For more info, head over to YamahaBlueCrew.com. Follow Yamaha Outdoors, as well as the new Blue Crew official channel on social media, and check out Yamaha's full proven off-road lineup at YamahaOutdoors.com today. SSI Decals, your way. SSI Decals sets the standard with the best looking decals, graphics kits, and vinyl wraps in the industry. Established in 1947, SSI took shape as an offshoot of their parent company by doing a little work for local pro Chad Wienen. Nearly 2 decades later, and fueled by a passion for ATVs, the company has flourished into one of ATV Moto's most recognized brands. From ATV Motocross, SSI has expanded into graphics and design work for top racers in GNCC, Works Racing, Pro Motocross and Supercross, off-road, and more, headlined by 8-time world champion top fuel drag racer Clay Milliken. Whether your project is big or small, SSI Decals will make your identity stick. Get started today at SSIDecals.com and use code DIGGINGDEEP10 for 10% off at checkout. Things are about to get sick. The Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast is brought to you in part by DID and their wide range of championship-winning chains. From the street to the track and everywhere in between, DID chains are designed to give you the optimal riding experience with great performance and increased chain life. Consistent to the core, pick up your box of reliability today. DID, what drives you?
We are proud to be partnered with Namura Technologies. For over 20 years, Namura has pushed the limit of value and reliability in the ATV and side-by-side market. Covering more applications than anyone in the industry, Namura's full line of cast and forged pistons, connecting rods, gasket kits, and industry-leading top-end repair kits and more have led to higher overall engine performance for your machine. Visit your local dealer or online at www.namura.com and follow along on Instagram for giveaways and exciting new products in 2023. Namura Technologies, your one-stop shop engine component supplier. We are pleased to be partnered with Bronco ATV and UTV Components. Bronco has been an industry leader in replacement hard parts and accessories for all makes and models for over 15 years. With a catalog that includes a full line of electrical components, engine internals and cylinders, shock and suspension parts, winches, clutch kits, valves, carb kits, bearing kits, and drive chain parts, Bronco is your hard parts source for whatever you need, for whatever you ride. Available exclusively through distributors around the world, visit your local dealer or online at broncoatv.com.
For over 150 years, Valvoline has been dedicated to constant improvement and innovation across all disciplines of racing. As a proud member of Team Valvoline for nearly a decade, I have witnessed their unwavering commitment to pushing the boundaries of performance. Valvoline has sponsored some of the greatest names in motorsports, solidifying their position as a powerhouse within the industry. Being a part of this historically great team has been an incredible privilege. When it comes to my equipment, whether it's my daily commuting vehicles, race quads, or anything in between, I trust nothing but Valvoline. Their range of products and lubricants consistently deliver increased horsepower, durability, and engine life. I'm excited to announce Valvoline's breakthrough in performance, Valvoline Ultimate Power Sports. With up to 8 times stronger rust protection and 50% better wear protection, this cutting-edge formula ensures your ATV's engine runs smoother and longer for the ultimate ride. Tackle rugged terrains with confidence knowing your ATV's engine is equipped with the best protection available. Ready to experience the next level of performance? Head over to shop.valvolineglobal.com and use code DIGGINGDEEP10 at checkout to unlock an exclusive 10% off on your purchase. Don't miss out on this limited time offer to enhance your ATV's performance with Valvoline's Ultimate Power Sports engine oil. Really interesting dynamic because every one of those guys wanted to be the one to derail Joel's perfect season.
Yeah.
You just mentioned the two biggest contenders, Bryce Ford and Brandon Hogue. Brandon Hogue lived with me for a time. My listeners know that. He would spend every waking moment. At the time, he was a younger kid, obviously. Now you look at him and you can tell he never takes a moment off. But, back then, being a younger kid, any waking moment was spent on the couch, in a car, whatever, wherever he was at the time, studying Joel Hetrick videos. Like Joel Hetrick was his number one idol, hero, all the things. And he actually, at one time, had a Joel Hetrick replica graphics kit on his quad. Like he wanted to be Joel Hetrick.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Now you fast forward and he's Joel Hetrick's trainer and he's like his biggest competitor, one of 2 biggest competitors at this time.
Yeah.
So I was talking to Brandon at Briarcliff and I'm like, how weird is it for you to be like, okay, your hero is on the cusp of a perfect season, but you're one of the very few guys that could end it. And it's just, he didn't even really know what to say. Right. He's like, yeah, I would, I love him, but I would love to beat him, and so then,
and he's his trainer
his trainer
next level, like hero, like I want to be him, but I also have kind of in a small way, I don't know what the piece of the pie would be, but I've made him who he is, through nutrition and
made him better for sure. Made him better.
Yeah. All those things, and it's like, this is a weird relationship. This is, if you looked on Facebook with these two guys, the status would be, it's complicated.
Well, and then I actually mentioned this to Brandon too. So Brandon's girlfriend is sisters to Joel's wife, right? Like it's all intermingled. It's insane.
Yeah. Very complicated would be the status.
Exactly. Yeah. Very complicated.
But, and the guys have the most respect for each other. And for Joel to be on the level he is and go, hey man, this guy, this other competitor, like he's doing something. I want to be on that program, man, that says a lot, that's something that Brandon will forever be able to hang his hat on,
Well, and the other thing that Brandon said is he said, I'm trying to hit these last two races really, really hard. These are tracks I'm good at. The hard pack tracks are where Brandon really shines. And so he said, I ramped it up like crazy before these last two races. And I sent Joel exactly what I did. And Joel's like, what are you doing going so hard? And so, Joel knows that Brandon's trying to pull out all the stops. It's just, like you said, it's a very, very complicated situation. But yeah, I think the stress was at an all-time high for Joel. Again, after the weekend, he would tell us that he had made it very clear that that was the case going in. So they got this little bit of an engine thing. They're hearing some noises. They end up erring on the side of caution. They put a new engine in this thing before the first moto. And spoiler alert, the stress might have been at an all-time high early in that first moto, just like you touched on, Daniel, because Brandon Hogue rips that whole shot by a mile in that first moto. He's followed by Bryce Ford, Wesley Wolf, and Joel Hetrick. Hetrick then makes the pass on Wesley. So it's Hogue, Ford, Hetrick, 1, 2, 3. Team USA, 1, 2, 3. Shout out to Jeffrey Rastrelli. He was in the 5 spot. I had just got done posting the play-by-play that we do on Facebook that the top 3 was all bunched up. And then as soon as I hit send on that thing, it literally happened where they were all bunched up around that billboard corner there. Hogue, Ford, and Hetrick, they're all piled up together. Mitch, what did you see there? Now, I didn't see it real time. I saw some video after the fact or whatever. But what did you see between those 3 riders when they got bunched up in that corner there by the billboard?
So do you want me to give you my take on that situation? Is that what you're asking, Cody?
I want to see what you saw, and I want your opinion.
Well, I mean, one, you've got Brandon Hogue that obviously is very motivated to win a moto. I mean, I talked to him mid-season, and the goal is to beat Joel Hetrick in one moto. That is the goal. So he has the opportunity there. Then you have Bryce Ford rides a little bit more loose, but he's confident in himself. He is. I think he tried to make a move that wasn't possible, but you and I both know that when you're racing and your adrenaline's up and you're going for it, sometimes you are going to try things that aren't possible because sometimes they turn out to be possible, And so, anytime you see guys get tangled up, you hate when guys take each other out, honestly. Joel's fortunate that he was able to get loose quick and go. I hate the fact that those two guys kind of got hung up there, and whatever situation happened was, I'm going to call a racing incident, is what I'm going to call it. Because when your emotions are high and you're going for it and you're laying it all out there, sometimes you make the wrong decision, and racing incidents happen. So, I hate the result is what it was for Bryce Ford and Hogue, because I think they could have battled it out. I ultimately think even if you remove that, I think Joel probably goes on to win the moto. But I'm going to say what that was guys just laying it all on the line, and Bryce trying to do something that wasn't the smartest at the time. But I can't say if I'm not in the same situation, I'm at the top level, I'm giving 110% and giving all that I possibly can, that I might not do the same thing.
So I was standing by the super rough sand corner, not the one by the 88 Live to Ride tower, but the other sand one. And I'm watching them go into the billboard, and it kind of looked like Brandon was sweeping out, go out wide, cut down by the billboard to make a run back on to that next jump thing. Y'all are motocross guys, I don't know. But anyways, he was trying to take the corner. Well, Bryce sees a little bit of an opening and tries to get, like Mitch said, tries to get in there. He's trying to make a pass. And so they get tangled up. Well, then Joel runs into the back of them, and old Wesley Wolf, he's like, yes, sir. And he just collecting paychecks and cruises around the outside. But from where I was at first, I thought, oh no, Brandon stalled it. And I'm like, Brandon doesn't stall it. Like, unless something broke, like that's not a custom thing he does, And then once some videos come out, I kind of got to see too. And I kind of agree with Mitch. I think he was, it was early in the race. I think lap 3, beginning of lap 4. So, yep. I mean, and it's an 18-minute moto, right?
18 plus 2, yeah.
Yeah, 18 plus 2. So they're not even a third into the moto. So there's lots of racing left. But I could see where Bryce is like, man, I've got to capitalize now, but maybe just been a little bit more patient and kind of let the race come to him a little more. I don't know.
Here's the deal. So from where I was standing, when I first watched it go down, I thought Brandon spun. I thought Brandon spun. Yeah. I thought he got past the apex. And the other thing here is it's the slowest corner on the racetrack. It's probably as slow of a corner as there is in the entire series.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when you're doing a 180 in the slowest corner on the racetrack, like these things are going to happen. Like it's inevitable. How many times have we seen it there? I went to Loretta's for 15 years. Like it happens every year, and it happens in the pro class every year. So I think Brandon spins.
And when you see it too, Cody, he's pointed at the billboard. Like I know our listeners can't see my hands. I talk with my hands, but the front of his bike is pointed at the billboard on like the going back down the other side. And it's like, well, he had to have spun to be in that position, right? That's right. I get where you're saying that. I get what you're saying there. Right.
So my first reaction is it looked like Brandon spun from my angle I was in the tower, like next to the hole shot, that other tower over there. So then the video comes out and you see that, Bryce looked like he got up at the inside of Brandon a little bit and probably helped him spin a little bit, right? Which is how they get tangled together originally. Now, throughout this entire thing, I'm not even barely thinking about Joel in his perfect season. My wife is next to me saying all she was thinking about was Joel's perfect season. And thankfully that wasn't something that impacted that. Cause that would have been, not cool to have it go down like that. If you were to
be having a different conversation.
And I'm glad that wasn't the situation that ended it. Now, I explained to her, that when you got 3 quads going in a battle, this is like your biggest fear is having, all 3 of you, like, especially if you're in the middle, right? If you're in Bryce's spot,
forwards, can't go backwards. You just, I'm trying to make a move on the guy in front of me without having the guy behind me. It's the worst.
Yeah. So you take these 2 guys that they want nothing more than to win one of these motos. Like you were just saying with Brandon, Mitch, that's his biggest goal is to win one of these motos and end this streak here. So you got these 2 kids, they're in first and second, they're beating Joel. Like it was the perfect setup in their mind. This was the perfect setup for how this moto could start. And they end up getting tangled together and Joel's right there too. And now it's kind of like in anybody that's raced where you're stuck together with another person, it's kind of like a game of chicken because you don't really want to be the guy to get off because when one person gets off, the second person almost never does because you want to get broken free and then you want to be the guy to take off.
Yep.
Yes.
So that's a little bit what was happening. Now, hindsight being 2020 and being on the couch saying, why didn't they get off their quad? It's very easy to say like, you should have got off right away, but they also didn't know that it was going to take 25 seconds for them to come apart or whatever, again, hindsight is makes everything so much clearer. It's that game of chicken. The other thing is the video shows us that they just about got unstuck like 3 or 4 or 5 different times. If Bryce would have just waited just another hiccup, they probably would have been unstuck. But just like you were outlining, these guys are at the very pinnacle. They're so close to, achieving a goal of theirs. And if it's not in you as a racer or an athlete to wait that extra half a second, the last thing I want to say about it is I was really trying not to, like, until today, I hadn't even posted about it. I didn't really want to draw any attention to it because everything always goes negative. I'm the most anti-negative person when it comes to ATV racing that there is. I want to shed everything in a positive light, all those things. But what Bryce did after the race to address it, say he apologized, he was in the wrong, the statement that he made, it takes such a big person to do that, to admit that they were wrong, to address something when the whole internet wants to burn down what Bryce Ford did, for him to say, hey, I shouldn't have done that. I'm embarrassed. I was in the wrong. I couldn't be prouder. I really couldn't. I couldn't be prouder of him. And I think that that's about everything I wanted to say about it. It was a racing incident. They got stuck together. It wasn't ideal. the way it played out wasn't ideal for anybody involved, but both riders were trying to not get off their quads and get unstuck. Right. And in the end, it was a mistake made, and hindsight being 2020, things would have been different, but the way it was handled in the wake of it by Bryce and all of that, I couldn't be more proud of the way that he handled it.
Yeah. Yeah. You can go to his Instagram. I pulled it up right here on my phone, and I'm not, I'll let all the listeners go, but yeah, go check Bryce out. And he just says at the very end, he says, I apologize for the mistake, man. He said, I was frantic. Everything we've talked about. He's like, yep, 100%. My bad.
Well,
so that's like I say, that's super cool.
I think the easiest way for any person to look at this outside of racing or whatever the life circumstance is, each one of us make mistakes in life. I mean, we do wrong things. Do you want a video and a microscope of everyone watching that and just to criticize you about it?
Yeah. Right.
I mean, if you look in the mirror, you can say, I'm glad that people didn't see that, me in my low moment,
Yeah.
So got to have a little grace. You got to forgive the guy. Look, it does take a lot to swallow your pride. I mean, this is a guy who could have a huge ego. I mean, honestly, he is a top 3 guy in the world at this point. And he's number 2. And, it's easy to have that pride and that ego anywhere you go, knowing, hey, my reputation precedes me, but to be willing to say, you know what, I'm sorry. It was a racing incident. And so that's what I would just challenge everybody with. Like, hey, look in the mirror, be glad that people aren't just crawling down your back for every mistake you've made, and
another thing, like, they both walked away from it.
Absolutely.
Like, you're not hurt. You make a mistake, learn from it, and punt and move on.
Yeah, right. And it's a blessing that it happened. And it happened because, and kind of to go back to the beginning, it happened because it's such a slow corner. It's a blessing that they were going 5 miles an hour when this happened,
Yeah.
Now I have to watch my words closely here, because I've been accused of 2 things. I've been accused of being too much of a Bryce Ford fan, and I've been accused of being too much of a Brandon Hogue fan. So, yeah, depending on who you listen to, I see comments sometimes that, it's all about Brandon Hogue or it's all about Bryce Ford. But I think both of those guys, right? You can't fault them for doing what they did, trying as hard as they could, trying as hard as they were, all those things. It was just a racing incident. I'm glad that we're all on the same page here. It's just really hard when some things that you see on the internet.
Well, for the keyboard warriors, when you get to Bryce and Brandon's level and you are in that situation, feel free to comment however you want. But until you get there, maybe not be so eager to tell them how they should have done it. I've never rode at that level, Mitch claims he did. I don't know.
No, not at that level. No.
Yeah. But yeah, until you've been in that situation, and I don't know, maybe you don't have the room to say that.
Every interaction that I've had with both of those 2 guys, I have come away from them so crazy impressed. Like you just said, like with Bryce, even when he was a younger kid, I didn't know him from anybody. And every single personal interaction I've had with him has been awesome. And I have been crazy impressed with him as a young man.
That's because you're a big Bryce Ford fan.
And then Brandon Hogue as well. I've watched him grow up to who he is now. And again, with him too, I'm so proud of the guys that those 2 are.
Yeah, well, it's just because you're a big Brandon Hogue fan.
There you go. So I'm very confident that both of them will be able to put this behind them, and they're going to be able to be standing side by side at the Quad Cross of Nations and represent the red, white, and blue to the nth degree. And they're going to make us so proud and all those things.
Yeah, better to get it out of your system on home soil. Before we go get it out of your way now. Go over there, be teammates.
So this is us turning the page on that whole deal, because I knew we had to address it, but I'm glad we're able to put that to bed. So Joel Hetrick, like you said, Daniel, was able to free himself up pretty quickly there. But the situation had to be way too close for comfort for Joel. I'm sure in that moment, he's got to be like, no way that this is going to happen.
Especially because at first, Brandon's sideways in the track. Bryce is all up in Brandon, and Joel's front bumper is touching Bryce's rear bumper, and nobody's moving. They're all just like, they're just panicking. I'm sure he's going, I can't even imagine. Like, I'm sure he is sweating bullets, just like, what are we going to do? And then he starts to see Wesley Wolf go around, and he's like, I gotta go now.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So exactly. Wesley Wolf, goes ripping around the outside of this trio that's stuck there on the inside of that corner. Wesley Wolf goes ripping around the outside. He's now leading. Joel gets up and going. He's second. Jeffrey's third at this point, and that's how they'd run for about a lap before Joel would eventually make the pass and hold on to the lead for the rest of this moto. Lindquist made a heck of a pass there too on Rastrelli, so that would have been for third. Meanwhile, Ford and Hogue were in 12th and 13th, so they went from first and second to all the way to the back of the field. And the next period of this race saw Hetrick stretch his lead, Rastrelli and Janusa battle for fourth and fifth, Jackson and Saar, who are in a never-ending battle at every one of these races. They battle for sixth and seventh in this one. Lindquist then closes in on Wolf. Hogue makes the pass on Ford for 9th and 10th. So Hogue gets the last lap in this moto. And Lindquist makes the pass on Wolf for second as the white flag comes out. I just love to see these two guys. So we've touched a lot on, Joel, obviously with everything going on, Bryce and Brandon. We've talked about them a bunch. The two guys, though, that are like as hot as anybody in the series right now, the two guys that ended the season on such a freaking high note, and two guys that I enjoy them just as much as anybody too. I love their personalities. I love what they bring to the sport. I love what they're all about. Both Wesley Wolf and Max Lindquist, man, raced so hard at Briarcliff, put it on the podium, and then they had it going on in this moto again too. Max ends up overtaking Wesley in the late stages of this one. But Max Lindquist and Wesley Wolf getting on the first moto podium, and spoiler, ultimately on the podium for the day at Loretta's. I love to see it because I love what both of those guys are about.
Me too, dude. I was telling afterwards, I was telling Mitch, I said, man, Wesley Wolf is my spirit animal, because coming in that sand section, and if Wesley listens to this, message me, we can talk about it, but he never took the right line one time. Joel tiptoes through this sand section, brap, 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 no problem. Wesley is bull in a China cat. He just sends it. And I said, I don't know how many calories the other guys burned, but Wesley Wolf burned double, because he's just, I'm going there, and he just sends it, and it's just, oh man. And
that's him at every race. Yeah. Every lap.
I love this guy. Like he doesn't care. He's going for it. And, we'll get into Moto 2 later, but I was just like, I'm a Wesley Wolf fan. Like, I wish I would have bought his jersey that was for sale, but I didn't have the $2,000 it cost to get it at the auction, And so he was going at it. But to see Max, in the beginning of the season, had some high moments, and then it was kind of a little bit of a lull. And to see him these last couple of rounds come back and do as well, man, it was like, oh man, let's go. Maybe Moto 2 is going to be really, really exciting. But I'm like you, Cody. I was pumped for those guys to do as well as they did, and to battle and to be nose to tail the whole time. Rastrelli's, he's back a little bit, but I mean, he can see them as well too. Mm-hmm. It was exciting. It was fun to watch for sure.
Do we see a little bit of a future repeat of Chad Weenan and Joel Hetrick in this? Okay. Me painting the picture of, Max being a pretty smooth, calculated rider, much like Chad. And then as Joel's really finding his racecraft, Joel was fast, but he was a little on edge. Maybe not as much on edge as Wesley. And I'm saying Wesley has control, but he is all over that machine. I can appreciate that as well. But are we seeing a little parallel here in these guys? Like, is this going to be the next thing? And we'll have a repeat of Chad and Joel here in this same class.
Well, I'm also a Wolf fan because there's a little cross country background in there too, so I kind of like that.
Yeah, there you go. No, I think Mitch, you raise an interesting point. I like the fact that with those guys doing what they're doing, very much becoming podium contenders. They have been in the past, but it had been years since we saw those guys coming into this season on the podium. And to think that we have those two guys, Janusa under normal circumstances, he was on the comeback trail here. Jeffrey as well. I mean, those podium positions should be as competitive as ever. And we saw early in the season, it was very much the Joel Hetrick, Bryce Ford, Brandon Hogue show. And in the later stages of this season, that changed. And we had more competition going on, and you love to see that as we kind of look towards the future here. But yeah, in that first moto, kind of have to throw in kind of a crappy thing here. Kevin Saar, who I'm such a fan of, he suffered a mechanical late in that moto there, I think on the very last lap. So that's been a trend of late. But it was Joel Hetrick. It was all Joel Hetrick in this one as he won that opening moto there. Now, just one moto separated him from history. It came down to just one moto here in the 2024 season here that would separate him from this perfect season. So Moto 1 results: Hetrick, Lindquist, Wolf, Rastrelli, Janusa, Jackson, Chambers, Hogue, Bryce Ford, Cody Ford, Smith, Saar, and Ulrich. That was your 13 riders in that first
before
moto.
we move on, Cody, Adam Ulrich, man, I was heartbroken for him because he's charging. He's making, I mean, he's top 10, he's riding his guts out, gets a little squirrely in that sand section. And then someone puts a pond, just exits track right. And dude, I watched the whole thing. That pond threw out a lasso and pulled Adam in. He didn't have a chance. And then he tries to get out of it, and the quads just sink into the frame. And then he tries to pick it up. They had to winch him out with two utility bikes, had to come winch him out of this thing. And I felt so bad for poor Adam, because he's out there grinding, having a great ride, and then he's fishing in the pond. And I was just like, man, I hate it for that guy. He's trying so hard. And
hey, to add insult to injury, like, I don't know, it could have been 10 years ago at this point, but I went on a little run there at Loretta's when I was there a couple days before the race, and there was water moccasins on the banks of that body of water there.
Right. No, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm out.
I'll be watching. I will go to the other side of the track to watch next year.
No, thank you. Nope. Yeah. Out of that. No one never found that spot. Nope.
Hey, also, I think a little tip here for maybe Bryce and Brandon. They need Joseph Chambers' hairs. They need Joey's hair. That's the key, because Joey, he's coming around there. He's 9 foot tall, this blonde hair flowing out of the back of the helmet. I'm like, that's a cool guy right there. Like, maybe that's the trick, is they got to have some hair flowing out there, but they're too clean cut. We need some more long haired guys up there towards the front.
Yeah. Those are two clean cut looking guys right there. Yeah. Maybe Joey has the other perspective though. Maybe he's thinking he needs to be more clean cut.
Yeah, maybe that's a good point.
Where Bryce and Brandon are.
We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin.
The following message is brought to you by Manscaped.com. The Manscaped engineering team has outdone themselves this time, creating the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, now available for purchase in the U.S. and Canada. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped, an official sponsor of the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, with this exclusive offer of 20% off and free worldwide shipping with code DiggingDeep20 at Manscaped.com. I'm one of the first people to try the new 4.0, and I am blown away. This thing is next level. What sets this trimmer apart from all the rest? The Lawnmower 4.0 gives you the ability to turn the LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. It features a new multi-functioning on-off switch with travel lock for those of us who like to travel. And my favorite, the new trimmer allows you to customize your trim with 4 different guard lengths, an upgrade from its predecessor that only featured 2. If you're listening, you know that good tools are a must, so wait no more to get the best tools for the job. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DiggingDeep20 at Manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at Manscaped.com by using code DiggingDeep20.
Hey everyone, this is Larry Mills, president of DP Brakes North America and proud partner of the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast. We at DP Brakes are a longtime supporter of ATV racing and the world leader in sintered brake technology, dominating the ATV world for decades by supporting the best four-wheel racers on the planet. This year's lineup includes Jeff Rastrelli, Mark Baldwin and Baldwin Motorsports, Ford Brothers Racing, Nick Janusa, and many more, including Mr. Digging Deep himself, Cody Jansen. Plus all the top 17 GNCC pros such as 7-time champion Walker Fowler, Bryson Neal, Hunter Hart, Cole Richardson, Jared McClure, Adam McGill, and previous champion Chris Borich. These top riders continue to appreciate the high performance and impressive durability that their DP brakes have to offer, products that ultimately help place them on top of the podium week after week. DP brakes are available through www.dp-brakes.com, or you can purchase them through your local Parts Unlimited stocking dealer, or you can even message us, myself, Larry Mills, or DP Brakes on Instagram or Facebook. And if you have any questions about product or sponsorship support, please ask us. We are waiting for you. Join the best ATV riders in the world equipped with DP Brakes, and have a great year, everyone.
Nearing 2 decades into the brand's existence, Factory 43 is back and better than ever, continuing to make major waves in the ATV world. For the 3rd consecutive season, Factory 43 is the official aluminum parts choice of the Phoenix Racing ATV team, providing their state-of-the-art Evo Nerf bars, MX-style front bumpers, and grab bars for 2-time champ Joel Hetrick. If you're in the market to upgrade your Nerf bars, bumpers, or grab bars, head over to factory43atv.com to see their full line of industry-leading products available for all makes and models. Head over to factory43atv.com today.
Hey everyone, it's Michelle Stillo, director of the D6 Ultimate Quad Series. We've been working hard over the years to bring you the very best in local ATV motocross racing. The D6 Ultimate Quad Series has race classes for all ages and skill levels. Maybe you're an experienced rider or you're just starting out, we have a class for you. We're excited to announce that we have 11 rounds of racing at tracks located in Pennsylvania, New York, and Maryland. For more information, follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
But yeah, so Moto2, and I didn't get to say this before, but I really had a gut feeling coming into the weekend because Joel is so on top of his game, like Mitch was talking about. I mean, and there's no denying that. But he's been as down on his hole shots here in 2024 as we've about seen in his professional career. So I came into the weekend, I'm like, you know what? He's going to get this right. He's going to rip 2 hole shots. It's going to be very, him-haw. And that is not at all what happened here. So Moto2 started with a bang for this guy. We just got done talking about him. He's been so good since returning from injury. Wesley Wolf rips this hole shot in the second moto there.
Johnny Hill Motors went 1 for 1.
So I was just going to say here, my very next thing is the power that JH is making on that Wesley Wolf ride has been the talk of the pits of late. Like that's all I've heard at the last couple of races is, hey, have you seen Wesley Wolf's motor? Hey, I don't think anybody's got as much power as Wesley Wolf. So shout out to the JH crew.
Are you telling people that are saying that? You go, yeah, man, it's a Yamaha. So is everyone else in the pro class except for Marshall. And he's got a Suzuki. It's a Yamaha, man. What am I supposed to be looking at? And, you think he finished, 3rd. So he's got a really good gate, but not the best gate, obviously. So to come where he was, and of course they always try to make it super as even as possible, with they till up that start there, they get some water down, but yeah, man. Hey, Johnny, I don't know the secret sauce you got going on in those Yamahas, but keep it up, my man. You're going to be getting some phone calls this offseason.
Yeah, there's no denying that. That's for sure. So yeah, heading into that second corner, though, if you watch the video of going into that second corner, the way that Max Lindquist sends it around the outside of Wesley Wolf there, he went all out. I was thinking they had to be so close together. Like the way Max sent it in there, if they would have tagged tires, it would have sent them probably both flipping. So Max goes for it, ends up getting into the lead, and there's no better feeling. I can't even imagine what it feels like in the pro class. I was never at the point there in the pro class, but to be leading there in clean air in that last moto of the season had to feel so good for Max.
Not having to rip tear offs. You can just leave them all on, man. Gotta be a good feeling.
So it was Lindquist, Wolf, Hetrick, Hogue, Ford, 1 through 5. So we had basically all the heavy hitters up there in the top 5 on the opening lap. And then things got interesting again for Joel. Once again there, as Wesley Wolf kind of ran him up and over a berm there before before heading up towards the finish line. And he didn't lose any positions, but he did lose some time because I had said to my wife, we couldn't see that corner at the time. And I said, man, Joel must have made a mistake. But it was definitely not a mistake that he caused on his own. But I would think, Mitch, that definitely spiked his heart rate because with everything Joel has going on the line, he wanted this thing to go as smooth as possible. I'm sure he had visions of ripping 2 hole shots, like I said, and that was very much not the case on this day.
Not at all. You're exactly right. His heart rate had to be spiked multiple times through the weekend. And I don't know, if he's tracking that. I know that Brandon's, a big proponent on tracking all those things, but I would like to see it at the weekend at Loretta's compared to the previous rounds, say Briarcliff and some of those where, I mean, he did have challenges and had to make some passes, but man, Joel had to fight for this one. He had to fight for this perfect season here at Loretta's. It was unorthodox in all manners. Like Wesley's like, no, you are not coming around me right here. So
exactly. I mean, but at the same time, right? Like that's kind of the way we want to see it. That's not the way Joel wanted it to be, but that's kind of the way we want to see it. We want him to earn it, right? But
that's right.
But yeah, things would really settle after that. Hetrick made the pass on Wolf, going around the outside there. Then he went around the outside of Max, who was leading, remember? So he goes around the outside of Max in the beach section, and Joel was off after that. So it was Hetrick, Lindquist, Hogue, Ford, and Wolf. That was the new top 5. Ford then made the move on Hogue, and Bryce was a man on the move in this moto because he would then make his move on Lindquist as well and get all the way up to second. Hogue pressured Lindquist next, but we knew essentially the podium was already locked up with Hetrick, Lindquist, and Wolf, depending on as long as those guys stayed near the front. That was going to be the podium there. Hogue would eventually make the pass on Max and get up in the top 3 for the moto there. But again, nothing was going to change. It wasn't going to change the podium there. And it was going to be a second straight week of a Hetrick, Lindquist, Wolf, some combination of that podium. But most importantly, guys, Joel Hetrick, for the first time ever, he went perfect at all 10 rounds, and he had completed the perfect season for the first time in the history of national ATV motocross professional racing. It's absolutely unreal. Just like we talked about earlier on, just like Mitch kind of outlined, we saw him have a chain fail at one of these races right at Loretta's there years ago. And we've seen him with mechanical after mechanical earlier in his career before he switched to the Yamaha. Now that definitely hasn't been a thing, but to hit all his marks, to be so perfect at every juncture this season, to never have a mechanical, to never put that quad in a bad way, man, I just to think that dude is going as fast as he's going and to never miss a mark, to put together the perfect season. And you could see it after the moto ended. You could see the excitement initially. He does that burnout. He whips that thing around. He does a donut right away. And then after that, the emotion hits him. And I think, there's tears shed and hugging of the family. His dad puts his arm around him and he's just like sitting there in disbelief. Like, man, I got to imagine he's thinking, what did we just do? Like, did we just do that? Nobody ever, all the names, Jeremiah Jones, John Natale, and Doug Gust, Chad Weenan, Dustin Wimmer, Josh Creamer, all the names, all the guys that he looked up to never did what he did. And John Natale got close once, but never has it been done prior. And people always want to say that this class isn't comparable to those classes, and I don't agree. You can see how fast that pro class is now. It might not be full of former champions, but those guys are just as hungry as anybody. I wouldn't want to have to go. I wouldn't want to have to be in the back alleyway with Wesley Wolf or, or Bryce Ford or Brandon Hogue, right? Like they're gnarly. And for Joel Hetrick to put together a perfect season, man, it's hard to even put it into words.
I'm with you, Cody. I mean, it's got to be an indescribable feeling to accomplish that. And I'll second what you said. I don't think that in history anyone has gone this fast. The power that's there, the handle of these machines, the racecraft, it is incredible. But really, just to put it all together, I mean, every single moto to win at this level and beat guys who are phenomenal. I mean, these all. Whatever the class average is, these guys can go anywhere in the world and be the top performer. And Joel is able to beat them the entire time. And I was talking to his dad, Rich, his dad earlier in the season, and he was just talking about the things that Joel had put together and kind of what the goals were. And I mean, that's ultimately what they were shooting for. And his dad has always pushed him to do that. And I think we could all say the same within the racing world. We set our bar as high as it will possibly go, and we strive for that. And Joel did that. I mean, he set the bar absolutely as high as it could possibly go. And you've got to think the emotion that he went through. I mean, we got to witness the high, but the high of him being able to do that. But you got to think about all the lows and disappointment and hard work that he went through to get to this point. You know, we don't necessarily see all that, but that's the culmination of that emotion that he experienced at that moment. Is like, I set this goal, and I remember, you know, basically my entire life. This guy's been doing it his entire life. You could tell at 10, 11, 12 years old when we're training places and we're in A class and Pro-Am, and what this guy was doing on a small machine, you said he is going to be something special. And man, it's awesome just to kind of see, you know, have that thought in the back of your mind. For me, that 15 years ago or however, maybe even 20 years ago, I don't know, time flies by, but to see it all come together for him, you can't be more happy for a guy like this. And he's a picture of ATV racing. He's a humble guy. He's a hardworking guy. He loves his family. He loves quads, and he laid it all out there and made it happen. Man, Joel Hetrick, you're the man. That's all I can say. Like, you are the man.
Yeah. And you think about, you know, Joel as the individual. I mean, how many times do we think, man, that's awesome for him? But think about Phoenix Racing. Think about Elka. Think about Walsh. Think about FM. All his sponsors around him going, did we put that? Where did I have an extra copper washer here and the motor's complete? Where did this car, you know, you think about all the little pieces that go into, you know, a 450 engine, or did we grease the bearings before we could, all those little things, you know? So that's where I'm, you know, it's everything you guys have said, but I also want to, you know, think of the team and the work and the time and the effort that these guys have put in as well. You know, you definitely got to tip your hat to them as well. No mechanicals for an entire season. That's unbelievably impressive. And you think about some of the conditions they've had to race in this year. I mean, it hasn't been the best, you know. I mean, it's been hot. It's been, you know, there's been some mud along the way and been some, you know, the wrong rut catches the chain at the right time, you know, and I mean, all the little things. You guys are racers. You understand this, but unbelievably impressive. And so do we see it again next year? I think, like we've talked about earlier, I think, you know, next year will be even tougher than this year was. And so what an accomplishment. And I just want to echo what Mitch was saying, talking to him on Friday, you know, rolling up, hey guys, how y'all doing? Glad you made it out. Just the most humble guy.
I know.
But he's confident in his abilities. He's not arrogant, but he knows what he can do. And like you say, the Phoenix coming on and moving to the Yamaha, the platform is there, and they've equipped him with the machine that's got him to this super, you know, like record breaking, you know, milestone moment in our sport, you know. And it was so cool to watch and be just a little piece of that, man. Congratulations to him and the whole Phoenix team. It's very, very, very impressive.
So the thing is, you know, I know, like, we've seen him do it, you know, that was a 67th win as a professional. Like, we've seen him do this for years and years and years. And we know that his standard is being the fastest guy on the racetrack every lap. Like, we know the standard, but at the same time, you still got to go do it. Like, you still got to go do it every single weekend, every single moto, he always brings his best. Like, that's what I respect more than anything, other than the off the track stuff. Like you guys were just talking about, the dude is the best. The dude is clearly like the best. You would never know that he was the fastest man in the world on an ATV. He's just
he's
awesome.
5 foot, weighs 120 pounds.
And he's just awesome. He's so humble. Yeah. He's so humble, but again, you still got to do it. And also you still got to do it when every other person is going to bring their best to try to knock you off. Like, every other person wants to knock you off. And yet here he comes, and in every single weekend, I mean, look at the stats. He won, you know, obviously he won all 10 overalls. He won 19 motos, 20 if you count the heat race at Daytona. He led 232 of 255 laps. He 10 hole shots only. So the hole shots were down. His 67th overall win as a pro. He passed Chad Wienen on this day as well, which is lost in the perfect season. So people, I know Phoenix is saying, and they could be right. I don't know the total that Gary had. I don't think anybody will ever know the total that Gary had, but they're advertising it or claiming it as he's the winningest rider ever now. And that very well could be right with that number 67. And
I'm not going to argue with him.
No. And it's just, it's amazing. But again, the guy is the best on the track. He's the best off the track. And the way I respect so much the way that he brings it every single time. And like you said, you look to next year and now the bar is set so high. The bar is set so freaking high that it's like, you can't be disappointed if you lose one moto. Like, I know you will be, anybody would be, any competitor would be, but the bar is set so high at this point. It's almost like it's unachievable,
Well, and what's crazy is you think this season, it was incredible to watch Joel do what he did. But this season, like you said, nailed it, Cody. You got to go do it. But this season was won in the trenches when nobody was watching. Nobody's cheering for him. Nobody's posting on Instagram. Nobody's there to, hey, man, how are you doing? I mean, he was grinding. I mean, he put in the work. And I bet if Brandon was like, here's some of his, some of the results of a bike ride or a training, a day in the gym, here's what his heart rate was doing. And man, it's just one of those things that kind of motivates me. It's like you go out and race, and you're like, yeah, I did good. But if you don't do good, you've got to put in the work. And clearly Joel has put in the, you watch him ride and just watch him pick through those lines. When I was talking earlier, Code, or you was doing your hand of him going through the beach, and it's like, cause he has spun so many laps in different conditions. And even Mitch and I've talked about this when he was a kid on like 70 mods, watching him manipulate the bike it's like, ooh, pay attention. That's going to be something someday. And to see all that come to fruition, man, I hope this is motivation for him. Like, man, I worked my butt off last year. We might have to do a little more, to keep up with these guys that are coming for him.
Well, he's upped the bar every single year. He's upped the bar every single year. And I would think in the back of his mind, I mean, obviously he's going to bet on himself over anybody else, but he knows that Chad Wienen is likely coming back. That's what we're hearing is Chad Wienen's coming back. So, I mean, those other guys want a piece of him. Chad's coming back. And when you're the defending champ, you want to keep the throne for yourself. You want to wear the crown, but as any true competitor knows, you also want to be pushed. As a competitor, you want everybody's best. You want to be pushed. You don't want to just have it be easy. And I'm sure kind of tying a bow on this Loretta's, this season finale that he ended and achieved the perfect season. It's probably even a little extra special that it wasn't perfect, that he got bunched up with those other two guys, that he had to go around Wesley Wolf, that Wesley Wolf pushed him off the track in that second moto. All those things, like Mitch said, he had to earn it. And honestly, that makes it a little probably more special than it would have been if he would have just ripped 2 hole shots and it was never in doubt and all those things. Cause that's what I meant by he has to go do it is like you watch the comments of people and it's like, well, there's no competition. He's got no competition. No kidding. He won all those things. And it's like, no, that's not it. He still needed to go do it against the baddest dudes in the world.
Yep.
With all the nerves, with the weight of everybody going, are you going to do a perfect season? You're going to do a perfect season? How many times on Friday and Saturday morning did he get asked about it? I'm sure he had to be like, just leave me alone.
Well, not only that, but David Eller is there instead of being at Unadilla with Dylan Ferrandis, and Keith Harrison is there, and everybody was there. The Yamaha guys were there. Donnie Luce was there. Everybody was there for Joel. No, Joel knew why they were there. He even said it. Everybody was here for me to do this, and we had to go do it, and we did it. And that's a great point that you bring up, is that's another thing that would have been weighing on him, and he stepped up to the plate and knocked the freaking thing out of the park.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that we were riding by on the side by side, and it's like, that's Donnie Luce. There goes. There's David Eller. There goes. There's Mike Walsh. All the people that make the Joel program go were there. Now they want to be there to cheer on their boy, but at the same time, for Joel, it's like,
I know why they're there. This isn't just another national.
Yeah, right. I got to go. And to think of a guy like David that has a dirt bike team, the pinnacle of dirt motorsports, well, I like to think so.
Yeah.
And they're racing hundreds of miles away. And that guy says, no, I'm going to go be with this quad guy, like that's something, man. That is.
And he was this close to missing out on a Dylan Ferrandis podium at Unadilla.
I know.
Oh,
yeah. So close. And then, was it last lap or something got around him?
That last corner.
Yeah. Different podcast for different show. But yes, to think of the pressure that Joel was under, like, I'm just like, I'll just stick to commenting on the races.
Unreal. So we typically ask the co-hosts, what else is there to say about Joel Hetrick? Because I've been out of things. I've been very much in the business of calling him an alien. And I think that we have covered as much Joel Hetrick, and rightfully so, as far as making this perfect season.
Well earned.
Yeah, definitely. But I think we got that covered. So finishing out the podium, Max Lindquist goes 2-4 on the day for second overall. Wesley Wolf goes 3-5 on the day for third overall. So both of these guys, really cool stories. I know I posted some stuff on social media about it, where Max had podiumed or has podiumed now 5 of the last 7 races, which is an incredible run for him. And Wesley Wolf hadn't podiumed since 2021 and now ends 2024 with 2 back-to-back podiums in a season where he missed multiple races because he was out injured, like with some big injuries. Very, very much credit to those guys. I was so crazy impressed with the story of those 2 guys, and Renaissance years for kind of both of them, because both of them went all year last year and much of the season before without having any podiums. And back to the front here in 2024, and both of them are licking their chops going into 2025.
Absolutely. It has to be a lot of motivation to know, you build that confidence, right? I mean, that's huge in the racing world, is to go out, like you said, and do it. You got to do the thing like Joel had to. But when you go out and you actually perform and do it to the last 2 races of the year, like that has to put so much fire under you for the off season of like, listen, like guys, our program, we found some stuff. Like I'm confident in this and we can build on this for next year. So, I mean, that makes you really kind of up your bar. If it was like, hey, let's place in the top 5 this season. Well, you end up on the podium. Now it's like, hey, I want to repeat and I want to stay on that podium throughout the entire season now. So, that's got to fire them up going into the off season big time.
You think about Max, the last 21, 22, 23, 7th in points every year. Points. Yeah. And then this year, 4th in points. And to end on a high note like that, man, hey, watch out. There may be a lot more Max on the podium next year.
Not only 4th in points, but single digits from 3rd, like he, one more event and who knows what would have happened. So
no more events.
Right. I love to see it, because Max had switched up some stuff with his program and kind of went back to his roots this year, teamed up kind of with Chad Wienen again. And I love to see him kind of getting back to where we thought he belonged. He was a podium guy as a rookie and then wasn't for 2 years. And it's like, where did that guy go? So yeah, awesome to see him get back there. Bryce Ford ends up 4th overall on the day. Obviously, 9-2 scores. Obviously that 4th isn't necessarily indicative of or representative of, how fast he was on the day. Brandon Hogue salvages the 5th overall on the day. I'm just going to run through the rest of the results. We'll touch on these guys as we kind of wrap up our season ending points as well. So Jeffrey Rastrelli, 6th overall on the day. Nick Janusa, 7th overall. Mason Jackson, 8th. Joey Chambers, 9th. Kevin Sark, 10th. Talked about him having that mechanical there in the first moto. Cody Ford, 11th. Adam Ulrich, 12th. And Marshall Smith, 13th at our final event of the year. So obviously we know the points here. Joel Hetrick, his 5th title, 3rd in a row, perfect season. I don't think that we have any more to say about that guy. Bryce Ford ends up 2nd in points, 8 podiums to start the year, which is incredible. 8 podiums. He didn't finish on the podium the last 2 races, kind of unforeseen circumstances, but 8 podiums to start the season. Something that's worth touching on with Bryce is the fact that, because I was going to ask you guys like stock up, stock down, but we've talked so much about these guys already at this point that Bryce is a guy, though, that I would say stock up, even though after last year, he won 2 overalls last year. But I would still say that his season this year was without question better than a season ago, because Joel Hetrick was in perfect form, and Bryce, having put together, basically an average finish of second and being on the podium 8 times consecutively, it doesn't get much better than that. And if he wasn't racing the baddest dude ever, he'd be a champion, so it's what else do you say about the guy?
Yeah. And once you put it in that perspective, like the numbers don't tell the whole story. Once you look at the field as a whole and realize, oh, there was an alien in this class, then it's like, oh yeah, I think you nailed that. That's spot on, Cody.
And with Bryce and Brandon, I mean, you could say this for a lot of guys, but really, I think your true racecraft doesn't come around until you're in your mid to upper 20s. You get that speed plus that maturity. So I think that's really that picture of what we saw with Bryce this year with the consistency is our maturity. Like, we know the guy's been phenomenally fast, but his maturity is starting to come around as well. And I mean, I think the same thing can be said for Brandon as well. These guys are very, very fast, but they're not even close to their peak. They're coming up upon, that's in their future, as far as where they're going to be when it all lines up. So
it was the same for Chad when he was coming up. It's the same for Joel as he was coming up. They're stupid fast podiums, a win here or there, but that consistency and just riding that ragged edge and being in control, all the things you just said, Mitch, like it takes some time, Yep. So, man, these next couple of years, it's going to be exciting for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think that Bryce and Brandon both, and you could probably throw Max in there.
Yep.
Those guys are very much on the Joel Hetrick or Chad Wienen program that those guys showed us. But I would almost argue that they're even ahead of the curve.
Sure. Yeah.
Joel was as fast as anybody at 18. Like, I understand that, but he went through a lot of years of going through a lot of stuff. And, Bryce has 20 plus podiums to his name. Brandon Hogue is double digits. Again, I think you could argue that if they're at least like on the curve, they're at least level with the curve.
I definitely agree with where you're going.
Success in the ATV MX world is similar to what creates financial success as well. The right people, the right advice, and more importantly, hard work and the benefit of an ongoing relationship as situations change and adversity is experienced. Do you have the right financial advisor to help you reach your goals? Haymauer Financial Group can create a personalized, goal-based plan to help your family prepare for whatever life brings. Call me, Scott Haymauer, at Haymauer Financial Group, a private wealth advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial Services, at 920-338-8150. That's 920-338-8150. Offices located in beautiful De Pere, Wisconsin, with registrations and clients nationwide.
Headlined by the 4130 Chromoly, Launderville Steel and Concrete Supply is a full-service steel supplier of new and surplus steel, aluminum, and stainless steel products. This racing family-owned full metal service center and concrete product supplier comes with over 30 years of experience serving the entire United States from their central Midwest location. As the #1 choice for nationwide shipments and with available next-day delivery in select areas, LSE has you covered near or far. 4130 is not just the chromoly tubing and plate used in the building of chassis for an array of motorsports applications, but it is also the name of the newest addition to the Pro Paddock with riders Jaden JJ Launderville and Max Lindquist, introducing the new 4130 Motorsports team. Launderville Steel offers a large selection of material for any project, including their concrete division that can supply everything you need to complete your next business or personal project. For a quote or more info, visit laundervillesteel.com today or give them a call at 715-675-6193. That's 715-675-6193. Here at Digging Deep, we have an obvious passion for ATVs and pridefully enjoy sharing the sport's history. Since 2019, when the podcast was born, we've been working to partner with individuals who share our passion, but one man and his vision had been missing from our partnership group. Until now. When it comes to the sport's history, the hallowed grounds of Binky's Forever ATC Museum has it all. Binky Tapscott's mind-blowing collection of 3- and 4-wheelers has preserved history by spanning all makes and models from Honda 3-wheelers in chronological order to unique builds that shaped ATV racing as we know it, like Doug Gust's iconic DRZ-powered hybrid thumper and everything in between. There's no denying Binky's passion, a passion that we certainly relate to here at Digging Deep. Binky's goal is to share his amazing collection with fellow enthusiasts by making making his prized possessions accessible to the public via scheduled visits. Follow Forever ATC Museum on Facebook and watch foreveratc.com for further updates on possibly getting a chance to see Binky's Forever ATC Museum for yourself. We are proud to welcome Binky's Forever ATC Museum to the Digging Deep family. As the #1 podcast in ATV racing, it's only right that we partner with the industry leaders in suspension tuning. Insert Impact Solutions. Impact Solutions is a full-service ATV and side-by-side suspension center specializing in the revalving and service of your motocross and off-road suspension. With over 25 years of elite-level knowledge, experience, and testing with riders of all ages and ability levels, Jay Goebel and the Impact crew strive to exceed clients' expectations for service and setup. Impact Solutions is the official Elka Suspension Service Center of the United States, offering unmatched product knowledge and experience. Whether you're in need of service, parts, warranty, sales, or technical support, Impact Solutions has you covered. Head over to impactsolutionsatv.com or give them a call today. With the desire to keep you in the race, Ultimate Poly Products offers the ultimate protection collection of case savers, chain sliders, intake manifolds, and more. Founded on quality in 1998, this family-owned and operated business produces products created by racers for racers. These industry-leading products are proudly made and manufactured in the USA, with their case savers being made of the highest quality American-made polyurethane on the market and designed to completely conform to your engine case to help prevent case damage from a thrown chain, because no one wants to be a spectator on race day. Join top pro riders like Bryson Neal, Walker Fowler, John Glotta Jr., Adam McGill, Cole Richardson, and more by using UPP Racing products. Use discount code DIGGINGDEEP15 at uppracing.com to save on your next order. Ultimate Poly Products, made to last longer so you can ride more. Thanks for listening, and remember to support our partners. Now back to the show.
And think about machines. Now Bryce, for the most part, has. Well, no, he had a year on a Honda too. You think about learning a new bike, and learning, what works and the fine-tuned little parts and pieces that work with the way that you ride and meshing that with a machine, and you think about, Joel has been on a couple of different brand machines, and then to now find that consistency, and this is Hoag's second. This will be his third year coming up on Yamaha. Is that correct?
Yeah, because he had a year there where he was kind of going back and forth.
That's right. Training on one, racing. Yeah. And so, you think about, like, that just sounds bananas to me, but you do what you got to do, So all these guys kind of getting dialed into the program and all the things, like to have that data and to know, okay, in this situation, I need this setup. Like, there's a lot to that. And there's really, like you said, there's 3 guys there that now have some consistent data over the last couple of years. That's really, I think it's, like you say, they're ahead of the curve. That's a great way to say that, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be really exciting. I know Brandon Hoag, he's obviously third in points this season. That's where he was in 2022. Kind of put last year behind him at this point. I know he changed some components this year. He changed some tires and stuff like that. And, I think that'll be something where they already worked out the kinks going into next year. He'll know exactly what to expect. It seems like the Westland Motorsports team is even finding their footing more and more, because that was a new effort last year. So I think that all bodes well for Brandon going forward. Max, it's the kind of same thing. He's back to his roots. He's going to stick with what he's got going on, 4th in points. And like you said, he had been 7th in points every year of his professional career to this point. So obviously this is by far his best year as a pro. Now, we haven't talked about this guy yet, I don't think, or not much, but 5th in points is your rookie of the year, Mason Jackson. Now, dude is unreal to finish 5th in points. I know we've had some injuries and stuff. I don't care to finish 5th in points as a rookie and to be as racy as he was. Mason Jackson deserves us to be, on the rooftops yelling this dude's name, because absolutely. To do that as a rookie, again, against, it's not like the dirt bikes where you're racing the lights guys when you first go pro. You're racing, all the top tier 450 pros, if you want to compare it to bikes, and to be a top 5 pro. He finished top 5 at races, and now to be top 5 in points. Mason Jackson, man, is going to be a guy that's going to race with those guys ahead of him in points there. He's going to get his way into the Bryce Ford, Brandon Hoag, Max Lindquist battle. I'm very confident in that, because to see what he did as a rookie, man, absolutely unreal.
Even last year, watching him in coming up, he would have rode Pro Sport last year, correct?
And Pro-Am, yep.
And Pro-Am, yeah. And I'm like, I remember he went by Bud's Creek and I looked at Mitch and I said, who is that guy? Like, he is cooking. And he's like, dude, that's Mason Jackson. And I'm like, well, hey, man, whatever I am following this guy. I am on, but whatever he's doing, I am in tune with what it is. And so, man, for a rookie, to do that and look at the guys that are ahead of him, but look at the guys that he beat this year, man. That is that he should be. Joel should be the number one happiest. Mason Jackson should be the number two happiest for sure. It's a toss up between him and Max, but super, super, super impressive.
And he's only a few years removed from the youth ranks guys. Only a few years. Yeah. I mean, because
he have a mustache.
When I was there last competing with Cody, he was a guy that I was watching in the youth all-star class, and some of these like, oh, this guy's good. And then to show up at Loretta's last year, I was like, wow, he's phenomenal. Mm-hmm. But really, a person, as you're rookie coming in the pro class, like my goal was, if I can get to the top 10, if I can get to the top 10, like I have done it. But the top 5, I mean, that seems just, that's shooting for the stars right there. Like, how in the world did a rookie land in 5th? Mason Jackson, man on fire. And with his age, man, I'm looking forward to the years coming for Mason Jackson for sure.
And that's why I wanted to bring so much attention to it, to be the rookie of the year. And again, in the top 5 and finishing in the top 5. Like, it's not like he just lucked into this thing. Like, there was enough injuries and all those things. He finished in the top 5 at races. He's top 5 in points. Like you just said, Mitch, like I was rookie of the year and I was like, I had like a few top 10s, This dude was in the top 5. And like multiple times this year, he was racing and passing Jeffrey Rastrelli. Think about that. He would have watched Jeffrey finish on the podium of the pro class 25 times. And yet he's got to go out there as a kid that, just like you said, is only a few years removed from racing the youth classes. He's like 18 or 19 years old, and he's got to go out there and race against this guy and then pass him. And it's unreal. Like, that's why, and I've said this on my shows, but that's why these guys that are so good, that are like all-time good, they don't think the way that we do. Cause in my mind, I'm like, that's Jeffrey Australia. I can't keep up with him, and he clearly doesn't think that way.
That's right.
Yeah,
you're exactly right.
To have a 4th there at Mount Morris at High Point, rookie season, I mean, you could say mid pack, I guess, looking at the results, but I mean, to squeeze in the top 5 your rookie year, 5th in points, like, yeah, he definitely needs some praise as well. But he's just like, yeah, I'm going to do better next year.
Well, that's his demeanor. That's his demeanor. Even when he would win Pro-Am, he'd just be like, yeah, yep. Great kid. He fits the mold of all those other kids where I'm like, man, they're awesome. Like, they're so respectful and so nice. But yeah, I haven't ever seen them even show a ton of emotion. Like, like show some excitement, pal. It's okay.
Like, this is a big deal. You're a big deal, Mason.
Exactly.
You've accomplished big things already. I know you got a lot of big goals ahead of you, but man, bask in it. Like, you're doing things that only a small fraction of people have ever been able to do. So you need to enjoy it, dude.
Absolutely. So finishing out our points here, just to kind of wrap up the season here. So Wesley Wolf ends up 6th in points, which is actually really impressive after missing a couple races for him. Kevin Saar, the Estonian, who sounds like he's going to be back next year. So that's a good thing. 7th in points. Joe Chambers, another rookie, really impressive. 8th in points for Joe Chambers. 9th, Cody Ford. Jeffrey Rastrelli is going to round out the top 10 for us after his few races that he missed. Adam Ulrich, 11th. That's really respectable for him. Nick Janusa ends up 12th in points. Marshall Smith, 13th. John Glotta, 14th. Aaron Salinas, 15th. Grayson Eller, Zach Decker, Agostino Abatiello, Blair Miller, and Chad Wienen are going to finish out our series of pros in the points here for us. So guys, we've covered this pro class to the nth degree. We should briefly touch on the amateurs before we get out of here. How could we not talk about Pro-Am and Pro Sport classes where we saw Mason Jackson? We were just talking about him in the pro class. He goes out to be clearly the guy to beat on Sunday in the Pro-Am class. We saw Heath Hanna pretty emotionally put it on the podium for him as well. Cody Houghton also finished out that Pro-Am podium. podium. In the pro sport class, Jaden Launderville, JJ, has been on an absolute tear of late. Zach Kazmarek is something special when that guy shows up to the races. He finished second in the pro sport overall. And then Cody Houghton got back on the podium there in pro sport, just like he did in pro am. So that was kind of our pro am and pro sport stuff.
Absolutely. I want to highlight a couple of these guys. I mean, obviously Mason Jackson, we just talked about him, but Jaden Launderville, man, he's incredible. I talked to his dad, and I know he had some issues with his health and stuff in the past, but they got all that lined out, man. He seems to have really found himself. And again, as we see him mature, I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does in the future. I mean, he's already accomplished some great stuff, but what I mean by that is as he transitions into the pro class, I think he's going to be a person who really can shake things up. Man, Joey Norris, that dude he's got a style, man. He's kind of got a little, his riding style. He's got some swagger to him. And we saw him, kind of up and down on his finishes, but he showed that he has some speed to really be a top contender in this class. And you mentioned Cody Houghton. So his dad was a pro TT rider. So, we get to watch Cody when he comes over to the TT side, incredibly smooth, really good. And he's really ascended really quick in the motocross world. He's only been riding motocross a few years now, and then kind of spent this year really dedicating his time to it. And feeling really good. I visited with him at Pine Lake. He's got some good guys in his corner, including one Harold Goodman, helps him get all of his machines tuned and just right. But Cody Houghton, man, he's really ascended really quick here. And then another name I see it, Noah. Dude, Noah has been good through the years, and he's kind of the same way. He's fought some injury here and there. So, if we could see him have a clean year health-wise, I really see him to shake things up in both the pro sport and pro-am going forward, because he has an incredible racecraft. And you look at his history through the youth ranks and all the way up to this point, that boy's won a lot of championships. So the future is really bright with these names. And I know I didn't mention all of them. Kel Deal, Gage Beebe, I mean, Heath Hanna, you mentioned. These are all guys that are going to make that next step, that are going to be these guys fighting for that overall position there in the Pro-Am class. And it's just exciting to see when you have a great talent pool like these guys, for sure.
Yeah, of course. You're talking about Noah Arnold there.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't say his last name, did I?
He's been on the cusp of being on the podium. There was actually a moment in time at Briarcliff that thought he finished on the podium in Pro-Am, I believe. So he's been very much in the mix for a rookie in that class. And you were kind of hinting on the fact that, his family, I know, believes that he's the winningest youth rider of all time. So,
yes.
There's a lot of good up and coming talent there in those classes. So Daniel, you got anything to touch on there?
Man, one of the things we watch hot and heavy in the EDT world is, of course, you keep up with the point of the spear, right? Your pro-am classes, and to see Cody Houghton, he shows up at Pine Lake there, gets an 8th in the pro-am spec class, one of the top tier pro classes, and then an 8th in the other pro-am class, which would be kind of pro sport pro-am for your motocross riders out there. Very, very, very respectful. Just hadn't raced any TT, shows up, jumps on a Honda, totally different build, everything's different, gets out there, and to see him do that was very impressive. And then to watch him at Loretta's I'm like, man, he's really good for the background to be in the EDT world was super awesome. But one of the things we like to highlight and mention a lot on our side of things is it would be like the 250 mods and the youth all-star, because these guys, they're all riding machines that are so closely even matched, as far as horsepower and weight. I mean, these guys are really learning to battle like pros, because they're machines that they can only be so big. They've got to be as light as possible, all the things that make the machine what it is. And so I had a blast watching the all-star, the 250 mod class, and to see some of these little guys. I remember we were standing there at Track Walk talking to Hogue, and he goes, hey, as you're coming out of the 10 Commandments, if you want to triplet, just give it a little gas. And I'm like, what? We're tripling? Kidding me? And so to watch him do that, and then that first triple after the start, make the start, you take the right hander, make a left, and then there's that. A lot of people would double, but you could triple it if you wanted to. And I was watching these youth guys just send it, and I'm like, no, I'm not. Nope, not doing that. And it was very, very, very impressive to watch these guys underpowered, not have the physical strength as some of these, upper level competitors. I was unbelievably impressed. And so the other side of that coin is the pro sport, the pro and the pro class is set to continue to reload as these guys come up, like a Mason Jackson, like a JJ, all these guys that are started at this level and are moving their way up, man, dude, the pro class is set to just reload for the next 10, 15 years. No problem. And it's so exciting to watch.
One guy I want to touch on, and I don't know if I touched on him enough on our Briarcliff review show, is Jaden Powell. So Jaden Powell got we're talking about the 250 classes. I know it's been back-to-back weeks. They share, I think it's maybe Raisin Cane Racing, I think might post the lap times and stuff, but this was the second consecutive week where he was the fastest. Lap time was set by him in the youth classes. Now last fall, he suffered a really, really, really gnarly, they thought life-changing injury, was stuck in a hospital bed for a while. They didn't know what his future looked like, all those things. He makes a recovery. I think, obviously effort on his part, credit to the family for basically letting him go race again after this stuff, all these things, right? I'll say what I said when I was on the mic at Briarcliff. I don't want to speak out of turn because this isn't my experience. This is his, but it definitely didn't feel like they thought that this would ever happen again. And now he got better and better and better. And this is a kid that won a national championship a year ago in the super mini class, but he's gotten better and better and better and better throughout the season here. He won an overall at Briarcliff, his first one back since this whole incident, since this major back injury. And now he won another one at Loretta's. And I just wanted to give Jaden and his family, all the credit and all the props that they deserve, because it's just one of those stories that makes the hair on my arm stand up. Because when
schoolboy senior win and 250 mod win, when
somebody lives for it, lives for it to where they don't even know what they would do without it, man, just to see the comeback trail to make it happen, I guess, very similar to what we were talking about earlier, to make it happen against all odds, man, that's so special. I just wanted to give Jaden a shout out because I've always been a fan of his. I think he's a great kid. I love the family and I love watching him ride. And then the what he had to endure, added a whole nother level to that. And I just such a fan of him. So congrats on a weekend that they'll probably never forget as a family, I would think.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. That's such a cool story. And you definitely got to highlight that, man, especially when you've got the connection you do. Oh man, that's so awesome for him. And to come out in the season 2 wins and to win all 4 motos, like he went 1-1-1-1. That's how you want to go out.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, that's amazing.
So cool.
So I got 3 more names that I want to mention here. We talked about, the top amateurs like Jaden Launderville and Joey Norris and some of those guys. I think both of those guys are going to end up going pro next year. So that'll be fun to watch. You want to talk about dominance? Kinsey Osborne. We've been following her all year long. 45 straight moto wins, which is absolutely incredible. 2 perfect seasons. Two perfect seasons back to back. The 3-peat, she goes back to back to back in the WMX class. Obviously, these stats are in the WMX class. She, I think she ended up 6th in points, her dad said, in 450A, which is also incredible. But somebody, and I think it might have been my father actually, said, I think I'm going to say to Joel, hey, Kinsey just did back to back. So you have something to shoot for. Credit to Kinsey, credit to Jeremy for the way that he wrenches on those things and kept it going. I know things got a little sketchy. He was telling me on Sunday that Kinsey had a bearing carrier going bad in her final moto there to keep the streak alive. So he also hinted at the fact that they might just pull over at the first race next year so that they can end the streak and it cannot be the pressure of that anymore. So obviously he says that tongue in cheek, but credit to Kinsey. My 2 other names on my list here are Dave Porter. So Dave Porter has been around the sport for forever, PRP.
Yes.
Dave is 61 years old, and he won the national championship in the vet 30 plus B class. So I'm going to echo exactly what I said on the radio at Briarcliff. He's been qualified for this class for 31 years.
Wow.
31 years he's been eligible to race this class. And when I told Dave this story, he said, "You really said that on the radio? You really said that on the mic?" So I'm going to echo that here. He ends up, he had a 4-point lead going into Loretta's. He told me he hadn't raced Loretta's in 15 years because he either wasn't racing the series or he had wrapped up the titles early. So he won his 9th national championship this past weekend at Loretta's in the vet 30 plus B class. That's 61 years old, which is absolutely amazing. Mm-hmm. And then the last guy I want to shout out is Joe Bird, who the Legends race kind of got the juices flowing for him. Yeah. He even said as much to me. He said, I loved being back at the racetrack. I loved riding my quad. So he comes out at Loretta's and wins the Masters 50 plus class. And I think Ernie Powers really gave him a run for his money. So he deserves a shout out too. That's a very competitive class there. But shout out to Joe Bird for winning the Masters 50 plus class. But yeah, so many people. I always feel guilty because I want to shout out every single person. But
for sure.
You run out of time on these things.
We totally understand. Super D is that way. He's like, I'm a fan of everyone.
I have no enemy.
No enemies.
I'm just everyone's biggest fan. And I remember being on the sideline and it's like, oh, hey, there goes Joe Bird. There goes Joe Bird. Joe Bird's here, and it was so cool to see him. And it looks like he basically busted out a Honda from whenever his last season was, and he just rolled it out, washed it off, changed the oil, put some MR12 in it, and just sent it. And I'm like, nice way to. I mean, I hope I can do that someday. I don't even think I could compete in the vet 30B class because y'all do jumps over here in this side of things. But man, that was awesome, dude. Yeah, I'm everybody's fan for sure. You
got to give Dave. I love the fact that you shouted out, how many years he's been at it. You think us guys in our 30s here, and when we go out and race on a weekend, if we haven't been riding, just how broke down you feel. Your back's sore, you can't hardly walk, you can't roll out of bed. And Dave, man, just continuing to kill it out there. Shout out to Dave, man. Awesome. And Kenzie Osborne, like Miss Automatic, I'm glad that you did highlight her there at the end, because same way at Bud's Creek last year, I told Super D, I said, and I was telling my wife Haley as well, I said, Kenzie, like, just watch her. Like, this girl has got it going on. She's rewriting the record books in WMX and the women's, like, she's awesome. And I'm trying to get her to come over to the TT world. I'm like, she tried Bud's Creek a little bit, but I want her to build a machine and get out here on the TT track and dice it up with Mel Torchio and Tori McCoy and Jess Reichman. Man, I want her to do it. It'll be cool. Be a new challenge for her. Maybe it won't be as much weight on her shoulders, of continuing this huge streak that she's got going.
Yeah, there you go. I know that the little bit of conversations kind of in wake of the Bud's Creek thing last year that I think that they were very open to it, and I think they really enjoyed it. So you might be onto something there, Mitch.
And the NEEDT series goes to a track that's just a hop and a skip from Briarcliff there in Dresden, Ohio. They just it was supposed to be this past weekend, but a bunch of rain moved through the area and they ended up postponing it. So now that Kenzie's got everything wrapped up, I'm just saying, Kenzie, like we could make this happen. We know some folks.
Well, things are getting busy for her too, because she's heading to college now.
That's true.
Well, I mean, what's more important, a racing career or a degree? You know what I'm saying? I mean, look at me. I turned out fine. So it's all good.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Advice of Super D.
That's right.
Don't take it. Don't ever take it.
Live the dream.
Kids, go to school. Get your degree.
Yeah. Well,
absolutely.
So exciting, man. So many high points, so many different stories. And, the low hanging fruit is Joel. But once you peel back a few layers, it's like, dude, there was battles all over the place. So many different classes coming down to the wire, man. It's fun to see. And like I was saying earlier, like, next season, this is only going to fuel the fire this off season as they jump into the 25 season.
Man, I love it. It's crazy that the season has come and gone. It always happens so fast, especially when, as you guys know, you try to cover it as much as you can. So it's like every extra minute I have, I'm thinking of something we can do digging deep wise and preview shows and review shows and this, that, and the other thing. So it seems like that even makes it go that much faster. It's almost like it goes faster than when I was a racer. But yeah, it's crazy that the season's already gone. It feels like we were just in Daytona, yesterday. But hopefully the off season goes just as fast and we'll be re-racking these guys and we'll have a whole new crop of guys. We should have a few new names in there, returning names like Chad Wienen. It should be so much fun. So yeah, I can't wait for that. But guys, this has been so much fun. I can't thank you guys enough for being open to this, for coming to me with the idea has been absolutely awesome because, there's some times where, because we've been doing this, this rotating co-host thing, and it's been really fun because it's different every week, especially when, we were on a run there of Jeffrey Estrelli and Nick Janusa and Chad Wienen. I mean, that was pretty awesome. But I think you guys this has been as enjoyable of a show as we put together this year. So I can't thank you guys enough for being here to do this. And one thing I do want to touch on is anybody that, for anybody that hasn't listened to the Remain in the Race podcast, where can they find your guys' work?
All the platforms, man. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. If it hosts it, we're there.
And how often are we doing these shows?
We're every 2 weeks. So we post about every other Tuesday is the way we do that. And most of the time we do interview people, but occasionally it's kind of a review episode like this, like our last one that we did was a mid-season kind of review where we're at this point, even though it's a little past mid-season in the EDT world, but it'll continue really into October over there. But yeah, any platform. We're also on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're not as prevalent on there as we need to be, but you can find us on all those platforms at Remain in the Race. So
I know how much time and effort and all those things go into this whole song and dance. And I think I probably know as well as anybody, right? So yeah, I give you guys a bunch of credit and, keep up the good work with everything that you guys are doing. Again, I can't thank you enough for your time here tonight. And it's fun to sit here and talk ATV racing with anybody. It's fun to sit here and talk ATV racing with people who are also trying to just build up the sport, kind of like I'm trying to do 1% at a time here. So yeah, guys, again, I can't thank you enough for your time, for talking some racing with us. And we'll definitely have to do this again. This was an absolute blast.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you very much, Cody, man. It was a blast and hope everyone enjoys it. So thanks again, Cody.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And hey, but never know. We may show up at another race and we can do it again.
Sure. Maybe I just got to show up at a TT.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. You want to come ride? We'll put you on a machine. No problem.
Oh, I've had many offers. I would love to do that. One of these days I'm going to have a TT quad.
Let's do it
again.
There you go. Yeah. That's what I like to hear.
Awesome, guys. Well, again, thanks so much for everything. I can't thank you enough for being so gracious with your time. And like I said, until next time, thanks so much, guys.
Yep. Sounds good.
See you, Cody.
That's Mitch Reynolds and Daniel Hillian of the Remain in the Race podcast signing off here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good night.
You too. Thanks.
Man, was that a freaking blast. But how the heck is the season over already? That is mind-blowing. Anyways, major thanks to tonight's featured guests, Mitch Reynolds and Daniel Hillian of the Remain in the Race podcast. Those guys were great. Thanks to producer Dallas Jansen, my brother, for all his hard work. Thanks to my wife, Brooke. Thanks to AMA official Harv Whipple. And thanks to all of our donors. Thanks to all of our partners. CST Tires. Go to shop.csttires.com today. Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew. Thanks to SSI Decals, Valvoline, DID Racing Chain, Namura Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, the financial advice of the Haymauer Financial Group, DP Brakes, Factory 43, Binky's Forever ATC Museum, Impact Solutions, Ultimate Poly Products, UPP Racing. Use discount code DiggingDeep15 at uppracing.com, the D6 Ultimate Quad Series, and Manscaped to get 20% off and free shipping with code DiggingDeep20 at manscaped.com. Support all the brands that support our show, and don't forget to use those codes to save. Find it all on our website, and be sure to click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner for all your gear and parts needs and to help us out. And most of all, thanks to you guys for listening. Shop our Digging Deep merch at shop.diggingdeepatvmx.com. I know there's still so many of you that were at the Briarcliff Legends race that maybe missed out because we sold out so quickly. We have most all of that stuff in stock, so you can head over to shop.diggingdeepatvmx.com today to get those items that you may have missed out on race day. You can access all Digging Deep things from that website there, including ATV Fantasy. If you want to see our season ending standings, I want to shout out our champion. Our 2024 Digging Deep ATV Fantasy champion is Ryan Barnes. Looking forward to having Ryan on the show here in a future episode to talk about his ATV Fantasy season. That's always so much fun. And another thing I want to make sure I hit on is we always shout out our national champions, all of our season ending national champions as far as ATV motocross is concerned. And we will do that on the next episode with Joel Hetrick. We have that show coming up in the next week's time, so you can expect to hear all of our national champions mentioned on that next episode of the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. If you're looking for another easy way to help support us, you can visit our website and click the Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee buttons. This allows you to set up a one-time or monthly contribution to support our efforts. Follow the show on social media, Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, and myself, Cody Jansen, for additional content, coverage, and more fun stuff here as we transition into the off-season with a few fun things still in store here on the horizon. We have the Quad Cross of Nations coming up, so we'll have tons of coverage of that. In the weekend after the Quad Cross of Nations, we have our Digging Deep Ride Day again this year at Briarcliff. That is Saturday, October 5th. I hope you'll join us. That's going to be an absolute blast. That was about my favorite day of the year last year, and can't wait to do that again with all of you. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and more. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. All episodes, additional podcast providers, sponsor links and discount codes, show merchandise, fantasy info, and more can all be found on our website, diggingdeepatvmx.com. So check that out today. Be a friend, tell a friend. Please download, subscribe, rate, review, and share. One last shout out to Jeremy Graves. Thank you for supporting the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. A special mention to Granny Annie and Grandma Penny. You know who you are if you are listening. And with that, for Mitch Reynolds, Daniel Hillian, Brooke Jansen, Dallas Jansen, and I'm your host, Cody Jansen. Thanks for listening to and making us the most listened to podcast in ATV racing, with more than 263,000 downloads last month in 109 total countries. Until next time, thanks for joining us in Digging Deep with the Stars of ATV Motocross. We'll see you next week right here as we are joined by Mr. Undefeated, the back-to-back-to-back champion, Joel Hetrick, right here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. See you then. Things are crashing and burning here at the Digging Deep podcast, much like the Titanic.
Those guys were hauling ass, for real.
I remember watching Doug Gus, I don't know who it was, Steel City, running the same times Friday afternoon as James Stewart was on Sunday back then. It was mental. I've never seen quads go that fast.
Quad leaders are freaking nuts.